Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, July 25th, 2025. So we start off back with Miss Gwen, and she realizes that the necklace is missing. She's wondering, like, what could have been the reason. So she's going to alert the hotel staff or whoever, the authorities, and then she sees Julie at the door. So Julie serves her a notice that, look, I'm suing you or something like that for the necklace. So she said, wow, what a convenience because, the necklace is missing and maybe, you were the one who snuck in here and stole it. You put it on this Academy Award winning performance. Maybe it's you that did it. So she said, number one, that cannot be considered stolen if it actually belonged to me in the first place. And secondly, I didn't come in here and break into your room and steal the necklace. So maybe you're hiding somewhere else. So Gwen tells her that, look, I have nothing to do with this. So Julie said, you know what? I'm going to alert the authorities. So Gwen said, I'm also going to do that as well. So she's on the phone trying to get through to somebody to, you know, um, find a necklace, help her with that issue, and then she runs into Doug and she realizes, maybe it was that same guy that, was acting as the butler at the inn the other day. And she's saying, she's trying to call back to him, but he already, was gone, right? So anyways, I had a feeling it was gonna be Doug, but let's stay tuned to the recap to find out more. So remember in yesterday's episode, Marlena collapsed in court and they had to get her to the hospital. So Belle, Brady, and Rachel are there because Belle called Brady and told him what's going on. So they're there waiting around for Marlena, and Rachel is just asking inquisitive questions about why did she collapse, you know is something wrong with her? So she said, Bella's saying, it's not really, I think she's fine, but Brady was saying that it was something, maybe something like when you had an upset stomach and the whole thing with Johnny, maybe something like that. She's under a lot of stress, right? So they're talking, and Marlena is in the room with Sarah to figure out what's really going on with her, right? So Sarah, run some more tests on Marlena because, she wants to really just be safe and sorry. So Marlena said, I was perfectly fine the last time we had this appointment and everything was fine. I'm probably tired, exhausted, I haven't been eating. So she said, maybe it's just that, but let's just run some more tests to see what's going on. So they run some more tests and turns out that she's fine. She just needs to not skip meals and rest a lot more, right? So Belle offers to take her home to do that, right? So Chanel and Johnny are back home because of all that happened to Marlena, and Chanel is just hoping that his grandmother is going to be fine. Johnny's wondering, what could have caused that. She's been through a lot lately. So they get a knock at the door, and it's Susan. So it turns out that Chanel was the one who called Susan to just come in, and Susan knew that today was his trial, and since they're on recess, she was able to make the flight and get there, right? So we all know that Susan is known for her, psychic abilities. So remember when Chanel was telling Johnny that, they need to bring in some kind of, you know, extra help to, help remember who was the one behind his dad's shooting. So turns out she called Susan because Susan is well gifted in that area. Johnny is skeptical because as much as, he's not doubting her abilities, he also think that it's probably not going to stand up in court. It's inadmissible. It's probably unreliable. Who's to tell if it's going to work? So again, his grandmother found offense with that, and said that, look, I know it wasn't you in my heart of hearts, and neither was it Chanel. So I'm gonna go out and figure out, what's really going on, put my foot to the pavement and see what's going on. So anyways, Johnny's saying, I know you wanted to help and everything, but I don't think that she's a really reliable source, and I don't think it's gonna work. So she said, look, like at this point, like we're on crunch time. We're really desperate to find out, if, you can be exonerated, right? So at some point they, find an intimate distraction, to get over all what's going on, and that was really that with them. So remember Doug, right? So Doug is leaving today on today's episode. He's packed up and ready to go. Gabby comes in and Gabby has Tessara with her. So she asks him, I'm looking for Doug Williams. Can you tell me who that person is? So he said, you're looking at him. So she said, oh, I heard that you were leaving town. That's a good decision, but I gotta lay into you first before you leave. Like, what was that? Like, you almost had my daughter killed and she ended up in a bad situation. So he said that he's sorry about that. He wish he could go back in time and just, think about his decision. So she said that, I know that wasn't your intent, but one bad decision lead to another and to another, and you let a lot of persons get involved and, get hurt. Like, Ariana's great grandfather looked out for you, took you in, gave you a job. So he said yes. And I was trying to talk to him before I leave, but I wrote this letter with my room key in there. Can you give him, give them to him? So she said, sure, she can do that, right? So, I mean, she could have laid into him a lot more than how she does, the other characters on the show. But, I guess we'll just take that for what it is because knowing Gabby, she can lay into a lot of people really deep. So I thought she was going to really lay into this guy on behalf of her daughter. But her and Ari, they really didn't lay into him as they should. Honestly, I knew that Doug was going to be the one that took the necklace out of Gwen's safe. But this scene with him and Julie, I knew that it was coming with him saying goodbye to Julie, but I did not think that he was going to go there and give her back her necklace. So she was definitely surprised as I was, right? So, at first she was saying, what are you doing here? So he said, I'm leaving town for good. So she said, it's none of my concern at first. So he said that I wanted to give you a parting gift. So she was surprised when he got the necklace. So he told her that he stole it out of Gwen's safe. It rightfully belongs to you. So she said, oh, I didn't believe Gwen at first. When Gwen said she didn't do it, I didn't believe. So for once, she's telling the truth. But, she's going to be upset when she sees me wearing it around. So he's saying that, are you going to tell her that I stole it? So she said, no, she doesn't need to know that. I'm saying, oh, wow, Julie, you guys are acting morally upright. You choose what secret you wish to keep and which one you wish to reveal. But anyways, that's just the Hortons for you. So anyways, she asks him to, help her with putting it on so she can, see it for herself in the mirror, and she feels connected to her mom and grandmother. And, it was a touching scene between the two of them. You can tell that Julie, under all of that hurt and betrayal, she cares about this young guy because, again, he's like a connection to her late husband. And, he talks about how his grandfather's cufflinks, his other grandfather's cufflinks, make him feel connected. And she goes into the house and, gives him, Doug's pocket watch that he used to carry in the army. So, she gives him that and he said, hopefully that will help you to, wherever you settle, that you'll be okay, that you will, hopefully change for the better and you will make better decisions for yourself. You have all the potential in the world. And wherever you settle, just call me. I will help you with these loan sharks. I will send the money for you to pay them back so that you can be on the straight and narrow. So he said, I'm going to pay you back. So he said, don't worry about that, right? Just make sure that you do the right thing going forward. So he leaves and, it was definitely a great scene. I definitely enjoyed it. So moving forward, we see Brady, Rachel, and Sarah. So Brady ends up telling Sarah that, Tate and Sophia, well, Sophia had the baby, but it wasn't at this hospital. It was outside of Salem, was in Chicago. So Sarah was surprised about that. And he tells her that, look, Sophia already went through the adoption process without Tate, and the baby's with it's, her new adopted parents. So Sarah's like, her? So, that moment right there, I'm saying Sarah probably knew the gender a long time because we're in the modern times now where we can find out gender really early. And even if the parents don't want to know, the doctors or the medical practitioners, they already know the gender by doing the ultrasound. I'm sure Sophia went through some ultrasounds already, right? So that really was surprising to Sarah that is, the baby was a girl and everything. So anyways, Rachel is happy that she's a girl and that, what's the name of the baby. So Brady said that he doesn't know because he also told Rachel, Rachel wanted to get a toy for Tate's baby, and he said it's a good idea to send it to that out to parents when they do get information, the address and everything. So when they come back talking to Sarah, Rachel brings up they should name the girl Mackenzie. So that really touched a sore point for Sarah. And she said, "Are you okay?" So Sarah said that it was allergies, but we all know that she felt like we because, again, it's a sore topic for her. So at some point, Brady caught the mood and he said to Rachel, "Go buy any snack that you want." So he talks to Sarah and said, "I know that was rough for you." So she said, "I shouldn't be emotional, but I guess it's everything going on. Me and Xander legally separating and I miss my little girl. So it's a lot on me right now, but I saw this coming. I should have separated when he hurt you last year, and I just was in love with him." And Brady said, "Look, I get it. You can always vent to me. I've been there with failed marriages and everything. You can, hang out with us at dinner if that's fine with you." So she said, "Yeah, I would definitely enjoy that, right?" So when they leave, because Brady took Rachel to see the movies as planned, and Sarah looks on the charts for Sophia and she sees the gender as male. So she said, "I know that Sophia didn't have a little girl." So we all know that this is going to come out some way, way or another. So Belle takes Marlena home, takes care of her, gives her some food, and she said, "Look, like, I know you're going through a lot with losing the love of your life, and you can lean on me. You're a psychiatrist, so I understand. You just want to be stoic." And Marlena said she's just trying to emulate John in that way because John was always stoic like that. And she just wants to just be that way going forward. And Belle said, "Look, like, don't forget that you can lean on me and I'm gonna lean on you. We have each other for a reason." And Marlena remembers that she also lost a father as well, and they just have to be close with each other given that tragic loss and everything. So at some point Susan comes in, and Susan tells Marlena how, she's sorry for her loss and how John was really good to her, when he thought she was acting as Kristen, and he was so empathetic towards her, and she will always remember that. So Marlena said that, he always saw the best in Susan, and Susan said the same way. So she was hugging her, but then she said, "I sense a bad vibe from you." So Bella was like, "You know what? That's enough. You need to go." Right? So she gets her up. And, Marlena was surprised at what she said. So by the time Belle comes back, she's resting. Belle puts the blanket over her, and then Marlena has this weird dream. I guess some throwback scene where she was dressed up in a gown. I guess people who've been watching all these years back, I think that's the Queen of the Night. So I don't know if they're trying to bring that back as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with EJ shooting. That's why Susan said it's a bad vibe. But let's see, right? So Susan was in the square earlier and she laid into Gabby about her involvement in EJ shooting. Gabby saying that, "Look, I was cleared of all wrongdoings. I didn't do it. I told you that months ago." So she said, "Yeah, but you didn't tell me that you were there on the night of his shooting. So what's going on there?" So she said that, everybody tells a white lie now and then. So what's the big deal? So Gabby was there with Gwen already and they were going back and forth. Susan did tell her that she will be definitely keeping her eyes on her. And if she's the one that's behind it, she's going to be in big trouble, right? So Gwen was there laughing it up, smirking at her as usual. They were going back and forth, as I said earlier. And, she was there, with Gabby was there with Tesaro and she was looking at the baby. It's like, "Isn't this Javi and Matty's baby?" So she said, "No, we adopted the baby for a temporary basis." So she said to the little baby, "Hey, little one, if I were you, I'd run away from this family of ghouls." So she said, "You can talk about Leo all you want, but don't talk about my family." So she said, "You're right. Let me talk to you directly. You're a ghoul, right?" So she said, "Is it because I was with Jake?" So she said, "I don't care about Jake. He's a classless fool for dealing with you. He was not ready for my level of intelligence." So she said, "Oh, it's because you couldn't hold on to him. She said, you're a fine way to talk about hold on to a man, because Stefan left you and Stefan cheated on you with Ava Vitale, and he left town without letting you know, and gave you divorce papers. So who are you talking about? So she said, like, your husband slept with your best friend, and you don't know where he is. I heard he was in jail, and Gwen said, look, at least I'm there happy with his fortune, and it keeps him warm at night. So she said, it's so funny that he didn't reach out to get back his fortune or send you divorce papers. Did you get rid of him? So she said, I didn't have nothing to do with that. Like, when Susan came and accused her of her involvement in EJ shooting, Gwen asked her the same question, like, maybe you're projecting. Maybe you're the one that, should be questioned for murder, right? So anyways, she said, goodbye to the baby again and said, look, I wish you all the best with this family. So she tells Gwen, Gab, give my regard to your family. So she said, go to hell. So she said, you as well, right? But again, this was definitely an entertaining scene between the two of them. It is what it is. Gabby did also ask Gwen if she saw Stefan while in Alemania. So she said, no, are you carrying a torch for him? So she said, no, it's Tony that's asking. So that was it. But comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful weekend.